What's up, Wisecrack? Michael here to once again try to prove to myself and my mom that I in fact did not waste my 20s by studying the work of dead philosophers while my friends achieved financial stability and bought homes for their burgeoning families. So for this round, we wanted to revisit a Wisecrack staple and something you all have asked us to cover. Season 4 of Rick and Morty. Now, the show deals with an abundance of philosophical themes, but I want to focus on one that's both very present in Season 4 and one of my favorites, death. So let's all channel our inner goths and get into this Philosopher Reacts to Rick and Morty Season 4. As always, spoilers ahead. Now, before we get into it, I want to take a second to talk about Wisecrack's Patreon and how it can help keep you clear of the type of all-encompassing existential despair we'll be talking about in today's video. Because existence can be a rough hang, and sometimes it's the little things that help keep us going. Wisecrack patrons get awesome perks, like early access to ad-free versions of all of our videos, a private Discord server for Wisecrack fans to hang out and chat about everything from memes to fast food favorites to philosophy, and regular patron-only streams where we chat about recent Wisecrack content, upcoming videos, and talk with patrons about what they're currently reading, watching, and eating. And memberships start at just $2, which is only 8 quarters. Best of all, the community you'll find on the Wisecrack Patreon will keep you from complete existential dread as you ponder the possibility of being alone in the universe. And if that doesn't work, you can at least keep yourself distracted by all the extra content. So go to patreon.com/wisecrack today to check it out. Now, back to the show. And now let's take a look at the first episode, in which Morty gets his hands on some death crystals that allow him to see how and when he's going to die based on what decisions he makes. Obviously, this is going to end well. Let's check out the clip.
Do they kill you? You're thinking of bullets, Morty. Death crystals show you how you're gonna die. Jesus Christ! I die a million times? Your future stems from your present, which, if you're living right, keeps changing.
Whew, okay, now, I really like this death crystal stuff, as it gives me an excuse to talk about one of my favorite philosophers, Soren Kierkegaard. For one thing, dude was obsessed with death, and this obsession worked its way into his philosophy. One of his books is called The Sickness Unto Death, which, rather than being a study on 19th century pandemics, was about a disease he thinks we're all infected with from birth: despair. And sadly, there's no vaccine for this one. For Kierkegaard, despair makes us all walking balls of tension, caught between all the freedom and wonder that our big brains are capable of, and the cold necessity that we still have to eat and sleep and one day die. Because of this, we exist in the present moment while also being aware of all of our future possibilities. And Morty's crystals make all of this literal. He is seduced by the possibilities of the future while disregarding what his actions mean in the present. And that's even after his grandpa tries to hit him with some wisdom.
The truth is, anyone that knows how they're definitely gonna die is either boring as hell or about to get shot down.
Okay, for Kierkegaard, this is actually just true. What Rick said, anyone who knows how they're gonna die loses what makes us human, which is our freedom. Okay, now Kierkegaard probably wasn't considering death crystals when he argued that, but to embrace our humanity, we have to accept both all the awesome unknown possibilities, including that your hot high school crush will one day sob over your dying body, and the depressing reality that we're all gonna die one way or another. Rick, on the other hand, and this is weird, exhibits a relatively healthy understanding of our relation to death. He warns Morty against being obsessed with its inevitability, because he recognizes that the self is a balancing act between a healthy acceptance of our mortality and the freedom to keep living our lives. Okay, we're gonna keep going.
You just use these to win fights?
I don't use them. People that spend their life avoiding death are already dead. They're also rich, and I like to spend my life with their money.
Oh my god. Jessica.
Oh, I love that. People that spend their life avoiding death are already dead. Okay, so along with being a great senior yearbook quote, Rick's advice here really vibes with Kierkegaard's discussion of despair, because in trying to avoid death, you end up sacrificing your freedom, which leads to a ton of despair. And in other words, when you try to avoid death, you're really avoiding living your life. And by being obsessed with how his life is going to end, Morty is going to miss out on everything that's potentially good about his present.
You're gonna be a lot happier if you focus on the moment rather than on how you're gonna die. I mean, who's worried about that, huh?
Rick, once again, is spot on. When you can't live life in the moment, your life is going to be miserable. For Kierkegaard, this idea of the moment is crucial to how we understand our existence. Because when we focus on living in the moment, we're not worrying about a future we can't control, or getting depressed thinking about a past that we can't redo. Obviously, at this point in the episode, Morty still hasn't learned anything, even though for once, Rick is giving advice that isn't just cold cosmic nihilism. So we're going to jump ahead to the end, after all the death and destruction, to see what happens when our guys are safely back in the garage. Let's see what they've learned.
Hey, sorry I didn't listen to you and tried to kill the whole world and stuff. I guess I gotta learn how to live in the moment a little more.
Oh boy, so you actually learned something today? What is this, Full House? I was living in the moment all day and it kept getting me killed by Nazis. I think you have to think ahead and live in the moment.
Once again, he's right. He's telling Morty to think about his life both in terms of what's going on now and what the future might hold. Now, to Kierkegaard, the death crystals probably would seem to enable one of our worst tendencies, to obsess over all of the future's possibilities rather than narrowing them down and deciding to actually do one thing. Put differently, if you're obsessed with a non-existent future Jessica, you might miss out on the real Jessica right in front of you.
A bunch of us girls were gonna go skinny dipping later if you wanted to join.
No thanks. I'm assuming we maybe get together in our 40s?
If despair is an obsession with infinite possibility, the way to get over this is to narrow it down to one possibility and then actualize it in the moment. I.e., maybe don't turn down an opportunity to go out with your crush just because a death crystal tells you to avoid it so you'll die next to her 70 years from now. So it's great that Morty realized this. Not so great that he realized this after basically becoming a domestic terrorist. Now, the exploration of death keeps going in episode 2 of the season, where a meeting between Rick and an invading pooper on his toilet planet forces them both to think about what the point of our existence really is. Okay, let's start on Rick's poop planet right after he suspects someone else is using his secret toilet.
Reverse digestion extrapolation. Time to meet your maker.
Oh boy. Now Rick gets at something super important here. Every philosopher ever has likely multiple times. So is there at least something vaguely philosophical about the necessity of defecation? All right. No, that's not very philosophical at all. So let's catch up with Rick after he then goes and tracks down his phantom pooper.
You dropped that.
I'll have to call you back.
Where do you want to die?
Life has been hollow since I lost her. Using your toilet was nice, though. I'm a bit of a shy pooper.
So sad.
I'm ready when you are.
Wow. And shouts to any shy poopers currently watching this. We see you and we respect you. So Tony, who is our toilet thief, he thinks he's about to die. And I don't know about you, but if that were me, I'd be really freaked out. I don't want to die yet. But as a lot of philosophers have pointed out, going all the way back to Socrates, it's kind of stupid to be afraid of death. Because why would we be afraid of something we've never experienced? Right? Like, you wouldn't say that something tasted gross before you had a chance to eat it, so why would you be scared of death when you haven't died? Now, a more appropriate response to death, and maybe the one that Tony is really going through here, is anxiety. Now, this happens to be a mood explored by our dude Kierkegaard, and later by German philosopher Martin Heidegger, who is very much not our buddy, and you can Google him to find out why. But Heidegger thought that the real task of philosophy was to think about what it means that our lives are one-way journeys towards the grave. Now, Heidegger called this being towards death. And this being towards death seems to be what Tony starts experiencing here, as he assumes that Rick is about to kill him. Now, Heidegger thought that when we face the fact of our deaths, we get anxious. And this anxiety differs from fear because we fear something determinate, like Rick's fear of letting Tony in as an actual friend. Now, anxiety, on the other hand, doesn't have a fixed object. It's like a full-on existential mood, like existence is pain in Misik's parlance. Now, for Heidegger, in anxiety, we come like face to face with our true selves. And we block out all the day-to-day that distracts us from really thinking about our existence. So anxiety turns out to be kind of a good thing. And for Tony, it seems that his anxiety has shown him that his authentic existence has a lot to do with pooping in privacy and being proud of it.
You know what shy pooping is, Rick? It's a pointless bid for control. You want to take the one part of life that you truly think is yours, and you want to protect it from a universe that takes whatever it wants. It took my wife. It clearly took something from you. We can spend our lives fighting that, or we can choose to be free.
I'm not kidding. That's legitimately beautiful. When Tony right there says that we can choose to be free, he's no longer just talking about pooping. He's getting at the relationship between how we think about death and our own freedom. And this is something that was crucial for Heidegger, who thought freedom only really comes through acknowledging our mortality. Now, Tony seems to take this to heart, and from this, he seems to get over his death anxiety so that he can truly live. At least until, let's keep going and we'll see.
Tony died.
Excuse me?
He quit his job, started living life to the fullest. He crashed into a tree space skiing down Mount Space Everest.
Mount
There's
Space
a Mount
Everest.
Space Everest? Okay, Jesus, I gotta process this.
Okay, R.I.P. Tony, obviously. But it sounds cliche to say that everybody dies, but not everyone truly lives. But like other famous cliches, a broken clock is still right twice a day. A dog in the hat is better than a fish in the toe. You know the road to take if you know the path to make. 2 beers before breakfast, you'll ace that math test. There's truth to it. Now, for Heidegger, we can only live an authentic life if we confront the reality of death and find meaning in our lives in spite of it. It's that anxiety thing we already talked about. And Tony seems to have embraced his life and spent it doing things that held meaning for him, like base skiing at Mount Space Everest, without a fear of death holding him back. And I'm sure that's what Rick is going to take away from this whole experience. So let's go see what lessons he's learned.
There he is! There's our guy! Congrats, Tony! Enjoy using it all by yourself while you sit there and think about how nobody wants to be around you and how you ruined it for yourself because you're a huge piece of shit. Look at you sitting there, king shit on his throne of loneliness. The saddest piece of garbage in the entire cosmos.
Well, that's legit very sad. It seems like Rick didn't really learn much here, or at least didn't get inspired by Tony to start living his life. Though in fairness, many of my favorite philosophers are miserable pieces of shit, so maybe Rick is ultimately living too philosophically or something. Or maybe I'm just idealizing toxic intellectual father figures to deal with my own issues. Yeah, let's wrap this up now. Now, to paraphrase the great fictional novelist Eli Cash, we all know that death is the worst part of human existence, but what this video presupposes is maybe it isn't. While we might think of death as a limiting factor to our experience, philosophers and shy poopers alike have considered how our finite lifespans are what give our lives meaning in the first place. And season 4 of Rick and Morty really makes us think about how pondering death can actually enrich our existence. Because let's be real, we're all gonna die. Hopefully painlessly and in our sleep, but at least one of you is going to choke to death in a Burger King parking lot after you try to swallow a chicken fry whole. You know who you are, and I'm sorry, but that's why you put sauce on the chicken fry to lubricate it as it goes into your throat. But for the rest of us, death can be something that makes us take advantage of the time that we do have to do as much cool shit possible, or, poop and stuff. But what do you guys think? Can Rick and Morty help us reflect on the surprising joys of our finite existence, or are we just overthinking the scariest part of life? Let us know what you think in the comments, and definitely let us know if there's something else you want to see me try my best to do a philosophy on. Thanks to our patrons for all your support. Hit that subscribe button like you're hitting the flusher after a legendary 4th meal session, and don't forget to ring that bell. Thanks for watching, guys. Later.